Hey everyone, this is Fernando doing another video for Modern Survivalists. In this case, I'm reviewing the well-known, famous Leatherman Wave. The Leatherman Wave wasn't until recently Leatherman's best-selling multi-tool. It was now replaced by the Wingman, which it doesn't have the same kind of tools the Wave has, but it is a bestseller, especially because of the price. The Wingman lacks the nice blade, the file. It lacks many of the great tools the Wave has, but it costs $20. $20, it's a hard price to beat, and the charge, even though it's not awfully expensive, we're talking about $50 for a stainless steel version, the one that's like a chrome look, and about $60 or $65 for this one, for the one with black oxide finish. I think there's no question about that. I'm absolutely certain that this is the best multi-tool that you can have for the money. For the money, this is the best tool you can, the best multi-tool you can have. If money is no problem, then this one is the best tool, multi-tool money can buy. The Leatherman Charge, which I've talked about many times, and I did a proper review of it. Now, why is it that I'm saying that this is the best multi-tool for the money? Because if you take into account what you're getting, what you're paying for $50 for the standard version of the Leatherman Wave, you're getting pretty much the same tools you're getting with the Charge. The only difference is that you have slight advantages. With the Charge, you will have the sculptured titanium grips, the handles there. You will have excellent steel in your knife. As you see here, you will have an S30V blade, which is great. It is worth, in my opinion, it is worth the difference. That is, if you're able to deal with it financially. Now, if you don't have the money for that, this is no doubt the best that you will be spending on. It's yeah, it is over twice as much as the Wingman, but you know what? The Wingman does not come close to what the Wave is capable of. Let's go through it as if you've never seen one of these before. All right. Now let's first start with what you actually get when you buy the Wingman. When you buy the Leatherman Wave, you get the multi-tool and you get a sheath or holster for it. That's basically it. That's all you're getting. One of the things that I like about having the Charge is that it comes along with a clip. All right. Here you don't get a clip, and the clip is one of the accessories that makes it much more functional, in my opinion. It allows you to basically forget about having to deal with a sheath and just clip it to your pocket, and it rides beautifully well. Now the clip is already like about $8, $9, $10 give or take, so you're already talking about adding money into the equation, right? We started with a budget multi-tool, but little by little we start adding accessories. Look how nice that looks. The clip makes it much more useful and practical on day-to-day basis, because at least I don't know if it's just me, I'm not the kind of guy that likes spending much time having this in my belt and such. I think this is much more practical for everyday carry, especially. You just clip it to your pocket, you forget about it, and it's not waiting in your pockets, just knocking around in there. Again, the multi-tool is pretty much the same as the Charge. You have great pliers. Even though you don't have the nicer titanium handles, it is not sharp on the edges, at least when using the pliers. The pliers are very strong. You have a nail cutter there. You have a nice amount of surface and needle nose pliers for more detailed work. Pretty fine. I'm not getting it to focus there. But pretty fine, pretty precise construction, and even if you use it, it still retains that precision pretty nicely. I haven't used this much as I've used my Charge TTI, but I did use it quite a bit, especially because this is the multi-tool that I take when traveling, when I have to send it with the luggage, and losing the Charge TTI, which costs about $100. That's a little bit more expensive. I've had other waves as well. I've had actually two other standard waves besides this black one. What happened was that they ended up going to people that definitely needed them more than I did, and you know what? It's one of those, absolutely, it's one of those great gifts, and I'm sure it's still serving those people well. So besides the pliers, you have on the outside you have a few tools that are readily accessible thanks to the thumb hole that we have here, and these lock with a liner lock. You have a serrated blade, sheepfoot serrated blade, which would be like an emergency blade or an auxiliary blade, maybe something you would be using when not wanting to risk cutting with a tip into someone. You may be cutting open clothes after an accident or something like that, or even cutting a belt. It's going to be a little bit less risky than having a clip point like in the standard blade. This is the blade, the standard blade, pretty nice tip. The tip is handy for when you need a little bit more detailed work. So it's nice to have the two blades, and I always like when a multi-tool has actually two blades. Even doesn't matter if it's a small little knife like the Victorinox Mini Champ, which I keep in my keychain. That little Victorinox also has two blades. You know, it's nice because if something happens to one of the blades, if it snaps, breaks, or if it loses its edge, it's always nice to have the extra one, being such an important part of the functionality of the multi-tool, the bladed tool, the knife. Steel here, I think it's a 420 high carbon, which is a cheap steel. It does work okay, but it's nowhere near as nice as the 420, the S30V steel in the Charge. This steel is actually pretty great. It's pretty fantastic. This is more of an ordinary steel. On a realistic scale, guys, how important is it? You know, hard to say. It depends a lot on what kind of guy you are, if you're going to be using these tools a lot. If it's going to be something more of a tool that you will be having for emergencies and such, then maybe it's not as important. If you're not going to be using it on daily basis, besides the possibility of needing it during a more trying circumstance, then just go with an ordinary steel. Not only here, but in knives in general. You don't need super steels for every single blade and knife that you have. We've all lived long enough and had enough things done with less than impressive super steels. Some of these great steels that we're seeing lately. Where is it that the difference comes in? Okay, trying to keep it honest and real in terms of, you know, I have the S30V steel, the Infi steel from Bussy, which is fantastic and such. We sometimes lose perspective of things. When is it, for example, that you'll start seeing this? For example, if I compare this to my gag knife, which I use pretty often, and I've talked about this before, what happened with a steel, sharpening it so much, so often, I'm actually eating up the blade quite a bit. That's because the edge retention is not as great as with high quality super steels like S30V. And if you're like me and you know how to sharpen a knife properly and you're used to having your blades, your knives razor sharp, and that's what you're used to, that's what you expect, and that's what you end up doing rather frequently, sharpening and touching up that edge, you will be finding out just this. You will be finding out that a great steel like S30V keeps its edge much better than more standard steels. That's where the difference comes in. It's not going to be that this steel is going to be prying like a monster pry bar, while this petty ordinary steel snaps. That's not the kind of difference. The kind of difference is usually in edge retention and how long it lasts your normal use until it needs to be resharpened again, and how easy it is to put back a razor edge on it. So that's where the differences of steel do come in. If that's not the kind of thing you're concerned about, guys, if you don't know how to sharpen a knife, don't even bother getting a super fancy steel, because it's gonna be realistically, and not trying to put anyone down, it's beyond what you are gonna be noticing at the end of the day. So you're paying for something that you're not gonna be seeing much of a difference of. All right. Then we have this fantastic saw. This saw is just great. I use mine in the Charge CTI all the time. It always comes in handy, and it is one of those tools that you see how, if you ever have to cut through something of significant, a significant piece of wood or log or something like that, this tool would allow you to do so, and you would not be able to improvise without it. All right, it is not as if with a small Victorinox knife without a saw, you won't be able to improvise. That's where I find the greatest advantage in the tools that the Leatherman Wave and Charge have. They are the kind of tools that otherwise would be pretty much impossible altogether to improvise. Someone was mentioning in the comment section a few days ago that a multi-tool of this size is no survival tool. That a survival tool is a full-size knife, a full-size hammer, a full-size saw, a full-size file. No, I just don't agree with that, honestly, and nothing wrong with that, but I definitely don't agree with that. This is the kind of thing that if you ever need any of these tools in an emergency, they will be there and they will make a difference. If you need a knife and you don't have any knife, but you do have this one, you will have a knife to deal with whatever problem you have. Right, sure, it's not going to be, this is no machete, this is no 7-inch fixed blade that maybe you will be prying away with. Right, that's not going to be it. But if you need a small knife, a pocket knife, you will have one. All right, and it will get the job done within its obvious limitations. If you need a file, you will have one, and not just a nail file from your Victorinox. You will have a pretty damn good file in here. A nice diamond coated file that eats through steel with quite a bit of ease. Even this size, I was just trying it out not that long ago, it does cut through metal very nicely. The wood file also gets the job done. I've done repairs in my car during side road emergencies. One of the hoses of the cooling system broke down. It was all rusted, needed a little bit of fixing. With the knife, I cut the hose and evened out the metal part that would be going into using the file, the diamond file in this multi-tool. So yes, in certain emergencies, it can be pretty great to have one of these. All right, on the inside, we have a can opener, which would also do as a cap lifter as well. And for something else that these come in pretty handy. I've used this one before many times for undoing knots when a knot is pretty tight and such. With this can opener tool, you can actually pry some of those knots undone. Sometimes it's just impossible. Sometimes when a knot is jammed bad, you just have to cut it. There's no other way. But yeah, it is good for a pokey a pokey little tool. Then you have this other tool here, which has a Phillips screwdriver on one side and reversible, so as to have a flat screwdriver. The older versions of the Wave had longer flat screwdrivers, had like a couple of longer flat screwdrivers and Phillips. At a point, I kind of missed that a little bit. Sure, here you have the option of using different bits. All right, if you buy the Charge, it actually comes with all these different bits, and these can be pretty handy if you happen to need one of these. All right, you have like a little toolbox thing going on. Now, with the Wave as it comes, you don't have that. All right, so the Wave as it comes, it's just a multi-tool as you see it here, and the sheath. in black or in stainless, but it is what it comes. You don't have this accessory, so this would be something else that you would be needing to buy. So in that regard, I think that having maybe three screwdrivers instead of just having this one would be better. All right, if you don't have this accessory along with it, which it doesn't come with. Okay, besides that, it's a matter of length. This is pretty short. It's actually shorter than some of the smaller Victorinox multi-tools. My Victorinox Midnight Mini Champ has a great Phillips screwdriver that has more reach than this. And we're talking about a full-size multi-tool here. All right, so you do have it is kind of a compromise when you have this accessory of using different bits and such. The matter of length does come into play. Sure, you can buy this accessory which increases the length, all right, and you end up doing this. How great is this? Not at all. Not at all great. It has a little bit of play, actually quite a bit. Yeah, theoretically and for practical reasons, you are increasing the reach, but that means you're having something else to carry besides, you're already carrying this in your sheath, and you're including one more accessory that is not included. So we're already talking about needing the clip, the extra bits, and now the the extension. So little by little, that $50 multi-tool is getting quite more expensive. On the other side, we have an ordinary large flat screwdriver, which is okay for some prying. Don't go nuts with it. Don't go crazy, but for some limited prying, it does get the job done. Be careful. At the end of the day, if you break this one, you have the other flat screwdriver there, not as big, and again, the length isn't as great, but you have another one. This would be the tool that if I have to break one prying, this is the one that I would be comfortable with up to a point. One of the nicest tools of the Wave Charge family is this small little screwdriver. It is taking quite a bit of space, but it just works fantastically for all those little screws, the Phillips and flat screwdrivers, the very small ones, the tiny ones that you will find generally like in glasses or in watches or small electronics. This saves the day more times than you would imagine. There's also times when you just need a small metal poking device, and this works fantastically well for that. Anything that you have to reach into, and do a little bit of scrapping with care, this is generally the tool that saves the day in those circumstances. So this was a great addition. And then you have scissors. I don't use scissors that much. Some guys are crazy about scissors. That wouldn't be me. In general, I find that having a sharp knife, if you keep it razor sharp, generally it does anything that a scissor will do and more. It is true that sometimes you need the kind of detail work that only a scissor can provide. And here, yes, you have a nice pair of scissors. It is not very big for the size of a multi-tool that you have. It's kind of small. But it is well designed. The spring system is not flimsy at all, so even though it's small and you have good surface there for placing your thumb, even though it's small, you get that detail work that you may want to have with a pair of scissors. All right, everything locks in this multi-tool, absolutely everything. Here you have a liner, a back lock, all right, for all these tools that I've shown from the inside. They lock with that back lock there, the spine lock, and liner locks for the exterior tools. The black version, this one, at first, when you first start handling a little bit, it leaves like a powdery black residue, but eventually it cleans up nicely, and I thought it would be wearing off much faster than it did. It's not wearing off nearly as bad as I thought it would, so that's nice too. One more difference is that with the Charge, you have that crimping shape there in the pliers. You don't have that here. How often do you use that? Unless you're in bomb disposal or something like that. I've never used it. Honestly, I can say I've never used the crimping tool in my Leatherman charge, and I certainly wouldn't miss it if I have to go with a wave. Alright. The pliers are fantastic. They're very nicely made and comfortable as well, even though it's not like the titanium sculpture handles. It is nice. The difference is when you're using the exterior tools. For example, when using for example your blade, your knife, here you will feel just a tad of a little bit more discomfort because of these sharp edges. All right, these edges are just a little bit more uncomfortable. You know what? Especially when you're using tools like this saw, where you have to be a little bit more forceful, the saw or the file. In these cases, you feel a little bit of discomfort. Now, the great thing is that they've designed it in such a way that when using your pliers, which are the ones that require the most force, that's not bad at all. You're not going to be noticing a difference in comfort when using the pliers, because these are all very nicely rounded, so it's not uncomfortable at all. You have a ruler as well when kept in this position, just like that. You have a ruler in inches and centimeters, and that comes in handy many times as well. I've used it plenty of times. Here you don't have that difference with the charge. Even if you're using one of the exterior tools with the charge TTI, you have those nicely rounded edges that are very, very comfortable. So it does work very nicely. That's a comparison. Okay. It is also, I'd say it's a little bit easier to keep it clean because of the polished surfaces. Whenever you have any finish like anodized finish or a black finish like this one, or paint finish, anything that is not like polished metal, it is a little bit harder to keep clean, and it may attract a little bit more humidity, so there's a slightly greater risk of having rust here and there. Right. One of you guys mentioned in the comments section when I did the Charge TTI review, oh, I hate all these guys that show shiny new tools doing reviews and haven't ever used this. I've used this multi-tool many years and for lots and lots of things, so that wouldn't be me, man. I just take good care of my multi-tools and my tools in general, but it has been used a lot. It has been resharpened a lot, this one in particular. Here I haven't done much, honestly, because I haven't used it, at least a knife, I haven't used it as much as in the Charge. But yeah, this one has been through most things that you could think of without going insane and, you know, like hitting it with a hammer on purpose or trying to break it on purpose. I've done everything that it's designed for and maybe a little bit more, a little extra abuse, and it would be officially okay with. But I think that the Wave in general is a fantastic multi-tool, especially for the money. Again, if money is no problem, no objection with the money, spend the extra money and get it, because of the S30V blade material, because of the S30V steel, because of the polished, for the titanium sculpture handles, because it comes with a clip. So you're already not having to buy some of those extras, and it does come with this bit accessory, and it comes with a sheath as well. So you're getting a little bit of extras that otherwise you may end up buying nonetheless. For a budget option, best compromise of what you're getting for how much you're spending, the Wave is, I'd say it can't be beaten as of right now. If I ever see a multi-tool that I think is more of a bang for the buck deal, I'll certainly let you guys know. As of right now, best multi-tool for the money, Leatherman Wave. Money is not a problem. Go for a Leatherman Charge TTI. Guys, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed my little video. Have a great day. See you in our next video.